Here we are, the final stretch, the last hand, the lead up to the end. The remaining shows of 2019 are coming out now, and soon, very soon, we'll finally be able to have a look at the entire year as a whole. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. There is still a whole fourth of the year's anime ahead of us. So as I like to do, I went ahead and made a list to come up with 5 anime that I'm extremely excited for, or, at the very least, hopeful about. Which is a stretch for me, because I'm usually fairly pessimistic about upcoming shows. As usual, I do not guarantee that any of these 5 shows will be amazing, or even worth your time, but they do have a high likelihood of it. At least I think so. So ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and today on Glass Reflection, we are looking at my top anticipated anime for fall 2019. Let's jam. Now, technically, this first one is a movie, and normally we haven't covered those here before, but usually that's because anime films don't get simultaneous streaming releases in the West. At least it's not a common thing that I am aware of. At the same time that Black Fox is released in Japanese cinemas, Crunchyroll will be streaming it here, making it easily available for Western audiences. No longer do we have to rely on distant theaters that don't have a comfortable way to watch the film, or the long wait until some semblance of a home media release. If we ever get one, this is a good trend, one that I hope to see more of, either from Crunchyroll or elsewhere. Stream films, do them, and don't give us a delay. It's a lot to ask, I know, but I'd love it. Now, as for the film itself, it's being produced by Studio 3HZ, or 3Hertz, and its animation quality from the trailer is mainly why I'm excited as hell for it. The studio's previous work have all had a surprising level of quality to them. Dimension W, Flip Flappers, Princess Principal, and even their stint with Sword Art Online are all on the higher end of productions, and this time, they have a theatrical budget behind them, and it is amazing! So really, the selling points that I have is just based on that, and also the very limited amount of story info available. Ninjas in a modern setting with fabulous animation. Oh yes. And if we are very, very lucky, then the narrative will actually be able to keep up with the rest of it. Here's hoping. Alright, so here's the thing. I think I have broken. I think isekai has broken me. It's like the stages of grief for isekai shows, and I've clearly made it into the acceptance stage because just reading the description of didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? Well, the description comes off as nothing special. Like most of these adaptations with absurdly long names, the title is basically the whole show. A girl with above-average abilities is disappointed that she can't live a normal life because she's too good at things. She gets reincarnated with the hope that she'll finally be average, only to discover that, no, she's naturally amazing at things here too. Having not read the original material, I'm unsure where the plot can actually go. But I'd like to hope that it'll be an interesting reflection on the stereotypical overpowered protagonist trope. One where the protagonist clearly recognizes that they are OP as hell and are just as annoyed about this fact as we might be. Either that or the whole show will be another trash-like comedy, considering plenty of the show's staff also worked on shows like Himoto Umaru-chan, as well as Gabrielle Dropout. Shows that have their place, but to call them niche would be gracious. Then again, Umaru's popularity was insanely large for a time, so you never know here. But you might be asking, if I'm so skeptical, why am I putting it on my anticipated list? Well, it's because I'm trying to do something different. I am allowing myself this one sliver of optimism. I want this show to actually turn out half decent, so I don't have another isekai series to add to the ever-growing pile of similar shows with little watch value. But I suppose there's also the heavily pessimistic side of me that is just waiting for this show also to fail, just so I can bring out a giant neon sign saying, "I told you so." Either way, the results of how this show turns out will be entertaining for at least one part of my personality, at the very least. Also, why a truck? She got reincarnated after being hit by a truck? Why is being hit by a truck this common? Oh man, I'm torn. See, I love Psychopaths, but it's had a rough go through the years. The tone of the universe has been all over the place after being passed around through different writers and staff, so it's truly hard to get a read on how good this upcoming third season will actually be. Now, unlike the original season, writer Gen Urobuchi has very little to do with this upcoming season, which for some people will either be a blessing or a curse. Arguably, when he is involved, is when Psychopaths has been at its best. The scripts he wrote for season 1 and the film were brilliant. But while some would say that the series' second season was a bit lacking, myself included, it should be noted that while Urobuchi did not pen that season, he was still heavily involved with it in the planning stages and presumably signed off on a lot of the narrative. This time, he doesn't seem to have a hand in anything. I'd like to have a hope that this series can move on without him, as the world of Psychopaths has always fascinated me. But we'll have to see, as this series seems to be going in an entirely different direction with different main characters, leaving our series favorites, specifically former protagonists Akane and Kogami, in supporting roles. Change can be hard, but I'm willing to give it a chance. If I can actually watch it, that is. So about that bit, unlike everything Psychopaths prior to this point, regular distributor Funimation will not be handling this new season. Instead, it'll be exclusively available on Amazon. I'm not one to speculate on the reasoning behind the change. I can only lament the circumstances, as it means I have to deal with Amazon Prime's horrible video interface, assuming that I don't get blocked just for living in Canada, which has happened on occasion. Still, with every episode of the new season claiming to be an hour in length, twice what we're used to, I'm heavily interested to see what Production IG has cooked up for us this time, and what they plan for the franchise's future. Like Psychopaths, this next one gave me a bit of a surprise. Fate Grand Order, specifically the adaptation of the Babylonia chapter. I was confused about its streaming location since I assumed it to be a Crunchyroll title. They've had episode 0 available for streaming after all, and they've grabbed Fate shows in the past with only a couple of choice exceptions. However, this time, almost as a response to the last entry, Funimation, via their partnership with Aniplex, have the streaming rights for the latest adaptation of a Fate property. For the show itself, I'm gonna be honest. Supremely honest. If you aren't playing Fate Grand Order, the gacha mobile game, there might be little here for you. Babylonia is the 8th major story singularity from the mobile game. Try as they might and ignore what they can, there's still plenty of narrative that a newcomer to this adaptation will know little about. Now, it is very possible that there will be enough time in this 2-core adaptation to have enough of a preamble to cover any basics that a non-player of the game doesn't know. But it's far more likely that this adaptation of one of the game's better narratives is meant to be more of a love letter to the fans. I'd like to explain what happens, because, I've played the game, I know the story, but I can't very much explain it without going into a lot of what happens in the game beforehand. All I can say is that it's another jump to a new land for our protagonist and his loyal shielder servant Mashu, where he'll run into Merlin, former advisor to King Arthur, Ishtar, a goddess summoned into the body of Rin Tosaka, and of course, another fabulous incarnation of everyone's favorite Fate asshole, Gilgamesh. Though he's quite a bit more mellowed out now, and this version of him is a bit older than what we've seen previously. There are other characters, of course. Plenty of narratively interesting servants do appear, fan favorites who get some time to shine, and its stakes set up our heroes to save Babylonia from destruction as it crumbles beneath Gilgamesh's feet into the underworld below. So, in summary, I'm gonna watch it, but I'm already committed. I've played the gacha. I've been sucked into the black hole that is Fate Go, and this adaptation, like the upcoming film, is nothing but fan service for those of us who have played. Join us. Feel the despair the gacha brings. And then enjoy the Babylonia adaptation like the rest of us. It'll be streaming on Funimation to start, but their license isn't a complete exclusive, and it will be available on other streaming services such as Crunchyroll, just with a several-month delay. Plenty of time to catch up. Boy. So, I have a list, one of many actually, but this list is anime that I wish I could talk about, but don't, because very few people would care, and any video I made about it would just be a passion project that would get no views, and I would feel like I'm wasting my time. Probably. On this list are the first 2 seasons of Chihaya Fudou, the 3rd season of which is about to air after, 6 years since the last season wrapped up. So, holy shit, yes! If you've never seen Chihaya Fudou before, a brief rundown. The show is like a tournament/competition anime, except instead of any traditional kind of sport, it revolves around the card game called karata. Karata is like a memorization game, where a series of cards are placed on a mat in front of two players. There is a reader who will begin to read what is written on one of the cards, and it's up to the two players to knock the correct card away before the other. This scores them a point. There's actually quite a bit more nuance to it, which the show gets into, as the writing on the cards are directly related to an anthology of 100 Japanese poems. Also, the reader doesn't actually read what's on the card that the players need to knock away, but rather one portion of a particular poem out of those 100. And the players need to identify which poem is being read and then find and knock away the corresponding card. Its complexity is potentially why it's a little bit more underrated than it really should be. As for the show itself, the 2 seasons released so far follow the antics of one Chihaya as she builds a school club revolving around the competitive aspect of karata, with the goal of reaching the national championships. But the main issue is that it's not necessarily easy to find people who are willing to be as passionate towards karata as she is. Kind of a weird meta-analogy towards the show, actually. Because it is a unique sport after all, and Chihaya's bubbly personality, drive, and passion for the sport is what has kept the series engaging even for the 50 episodes that are already released. Out of any of the series that I recommend today, this is the one that I hope you take seriously. I'm not joking. This one. This one. While I am mostly guessing to the quality of all the shows this season yet to come, I can very easily and very highly recommend Chihaya Fudou. It is a hidden gem of a show that I don't get to recommend often, so I'm doing it now. Because I am certain that quite a few of you will find its charm exciting if you just give it a chance. So that's it from me. There will be streaming links to the shows listed here today down below, and most of them just so happen to be available from this video sponsor, Crunchyroll. Either immediately, or in the case of like FGO, in the near future-ish? Lastly, a very special thank you to my patrons, without whom I would be unable to do what I do, and therefore, I am eternally grateful. Specifically though, I want to give particular shoutouts to patrons Hector Montemayor, City Yamako, Ryfan Bonaparte, Rune Jacobson, Calhoun Boy, and Richard Bradley for being especially awesome. You guys are great. Look forward to first reaction videos on many, if not all, of the shows that I have talked about today. And, you know, perhaps 1 or 2 from the shows I didn't. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.